Did you see that? A ghost.
Welcome to Paranormal Pentivity, a show about songwriting, ghostwriting, and everything in between. My name is Nayim. I am your host. It's been a long time since we've been on this set. And what better way to kick it off than to talk about the proxy war between Nicki Minaj and everybody else, but specifically today, record labels, i.e. Atlantic Records, because they're the only ones who was able to make something stick, and Jay-Z and anything connected to Jay-Z. Now, I want to take you all the way back to the beginning, and I would really encourage you to listen to this in its entirety, because you're not going to be able to understand based on what you think is going on, because I want to talk about specifically how relationships work and how things work and how we even got to this point where everything is just falling apart and crumbling and busting at the seams as we know it. So, going all the way back to the beginning of when Nicki Minaj was coming up, if you remember, now these are things I've already spoke about before. Plenty of videos on the channel talking about all these things. Find them, watch them. I'll number all these episodes eventually. But Nicki Minaj got her start, obviously where she was from in Queens, the Come Up DVD. She was running with the Riot Squad and Stack Bundles, if you remember who they were. Most of those people are dead right now. That was Stack Bundles, Chinks. He changed his name to Chinks, and it was Chinks Drugs at first. Call 2 G's, and I think it was Bino. And they were a group out of Far Rockaway, Queens, and she was on their song All About the Benjamins. Now, she was making her own little wave too because she was freestyling. There's video proof of all of this. I was a child when all of this was happening. I would say I was there, i.e. I was brought up, as a lot of us were brought up, on who Nicki Minaj was, because this was back in the mixtape era, which we have a whole breakdown in the live section of how the mixtape era came to be and why they had to destroy it. But Nicki Minaj got her start out there with them and got her start with making her way around the mixtape circuit, and then her mixtape started to drop because she came from that era where if you wanted to be an entertainer, you actually had to show and prove. You actually had to have some type of workable talent. You had to get out there and show it. You had to have a DJ, which mattered more back in the day. And I feel like a DJ matters now, but it just really depends on what sector you're in. But this was the time where you actually had to go outside and make something of yourself and do something. She was not going to be no rapper just rapping on no DVD. She had to actually come with her own project. So if you remember some of her first projects, Beam Me Up Scotty was like the most popular one. I think she had like a Come Up mixtape too, but it was like 2 or 3 of them that she had out at the time. And then you knew back then, if you had a hot song that was on those projects, a popular DJ, especially up there in New York, they would take your song and your position on the mixtape would determine how hot you were. So if she had a hot song, they would take her song and they would put it in the top 5, the top 10. You really wanted to be number 1 or in that top 3 slot, because anything that was really after number 5, it was just kind of like, okay, because mixtapes had like 30 songs on them. So this is just the backstory of how she came up into that. Now, we know that Deb Anthy was the person who really found her. Like, if we're talking about getting her to be able to get into the music industry and move. Now, Nicki Minaj, by no stretch of the imagination, was somebody who was not somebody that they could mold and work into a situation where her music career could boom. Because keep in mind, female rappers were not as prevalent at the time. We had Kim. Kim was doing her thing, but Kim was kind of like the only one that was out here actually moving and shaking and making noise. But Kim wasn't really, Kim had mixtapes, but they weren't as hot as some of the new guard. Remember, music changes every 10 years or so. Really, now it changes like every 5 years, but back then, music changed every decade. So Kim was the biggest mainstream female artist, and naturally with the tides turning, and we're going from analog to digital. And I'm saying analog in this sense of everything, you had to go to the store, you had to buy, you had to stand in line and do all of that. Nicki Minaj comes in at this very critical, pivotal time where music is crossing over into the digital space. People forget about this. And you know, we this ain't about none of the personal shit today. We'll get to that at the end as to how it tied into the business. But Nicki Minaj came in where everybody started to consume music on the internet, but you still had to actually go out into the street to make your fan base and make your people and get your people to be able to come on board with it. So Nicki has the physical Come Up and the physical Beam Me Up Scotty and all the other mixtapes that she had. She had Sucker Free was the other one. I was trying to think about what it was. It was Sucker Free. So she had her mixtapes, but they were in the physical world, and this is how you got the word out because you had to actually sell mixtapes. Remember, she said Which Bitch You Know made $1 million off a mixtape on whatever that Drake song she had or whatever. But this was the time where, yes, that existed, but Nicki Minaj was one of the first people to actually introduce the music business in these contracts to selling, like making sales from digital things count. Because people do not remember this. I remember it because I've been in music forever, but like there was this small fraction of time where digital sales of music did not count. Apple Music is new. Like streaming is a new thing. Back then, if you had iTunes, you could buy songs from whoever was on iTunes and they would be in your catalog or you could put them on your iPhone and your iPod and all of that stuff and you could play it from that music player. It was a fairly new music player, iTunes, but that was a digital marketplace. Nicki Minaj was the person to come into the music industry and say, these sales need to count towards album sales. Ringtones and things, and that with the help of like Soldier Boy, need to count as album sales. They need to count as sales towards my stuff. Because they were just counting what you can physically sell and stuff. So she helped introduce bringing those digital aspects. And then again with her, the bundles and all the other little tricks and things that people use to sell. So, you know, you buy a t-shirt, you get a digital album that counted towards the sales of the album. She is the person responsible for this. Single-handedly, maybe not, but 90% because she was the only person out here saying contracts need to be rewritten. Music business needs to be redone because this is a whole this different thing that all contracts is saying is in perpetuity, no matter what changes in all the galaxy, it was the same number and the same thing. This is why people that was with her, i.e. Cash Money and them, were able to brag about, yeah, our artists own their music. She was like, it was literally only a few people when she came out that owned their music because this was the introduction after she caused so much of a rift with changing the way the contracts was written because she saw that there was money being made and that they needed some of that money. She said, we need that. And I lost track a little bit because of my throat, but like she was the person that was responsible for getting everything redone and them introducing this brand new marketplace and them introducing all this new stuff. The labels did not like that. They created the 360 deal based on all the nonsense. I mean, 360s existed already. None of this stuff was new, but they had to ramp it up because they're over there Cash Money bragging like we getting all the money and we getting all the digital and our artists is taken care of and XYZ and etc. etc. This is because of her. Don't let people tell you that it's not. I was a child and I was there. Really a teenager when I started to understand all of this stuff. So after the advent of them shaking the game up, they weren't going to allow other people to come in here and do that. And that is where the start of the labels disliking her came. It had nothing to do really with the fact that she was the last of her generation, i.e. that analog generation. She was the last woman of the analog generation to be able to really come out and dominate the way that she did. We're not talking about people who might have been good. We're not talking about people who had a little bit of run. We're talking about people who have been able to be superstars. She's the last female rapper. Because remember, she existed in the time of Destiny's Child. She existed really, but like when she came in, it was her, it was Drake, it was Wiz, it was just like a lot of different people who came from mixtapes on the street having to come into this. the Soldier Boys and all of those and stuff, and the music was changing. Remember I said this a long time ago. If you knew, you don't remember this. Even the rhyme schemes was different back then. They were on some I'm a basketball player dribble type of stuff. People liked hearing that kind of music. That was innovative because nobody ever heard people using the metaphors and using the language the way that her and Drake and them over there at Cash Money and stuff was doing for their generation at that time. So this is the start of the record labels hating her, pretty much. For a very long time, I say about 10 years, Nicki Minaj was the only female rapper out. So this is where everybody else starts to get involved and say, bruh, Baby and Universal are the only people in Slim, but Cash Money and Universal are the only people eating off of females. We see that being a female rapper is a license to print money. People like to say, oh, people don't sell records and people don't do this and people don't do that. One, different generation, different criteria, different set of metrics compared to where we are now. But females, again, because I feel like I'm talking in circles, female rappers are a license to print money. Rap is the number one genre on this planet. Don't let nobody tell you about what R&B artists sold this and who sold this many tickets. They don't have the impact. They don't have the influence. They don't have the things that rappers have. This is why, yeah, you might be Usher, but if Jay-Z walk in the room, nobody give a fuck that you, well, Usher probably not a good example, but nobody gives a fuck about the singer. They're trying to go talk to the rapper because rapping is a license to print money. It's like having an NFL team because, yeah, oh, we could talk about sales and we could talk about this, but the impact and the influence and the things that come along with being the most, lack of a better term, the most alpha person in the room, which is always going to be the rapper, no matter what gender or whatever they are, the rapper's always going to be the most alpha person in the room. It don't matter. It could be Chance the Rapper. The rapper is the most dominant person in the room because that's just naturally what comes with rap. So all the record labels were looking. Atlantic is just a person that was able to make something stick. Remember, 10 years, she's the only person that's been able to get out here and do something. So she's the only one making money. She's the only one doing this. And it's kind of lax because naturally, comfort breeds complacency. There's no other rappers that came out. Everybody wanted to be. Remy existed, but Remy went to jail. So there's nobody else there. She has a license and free range to run as wild as she wants to run. And nobody's going to challenge her. And nobody's going to be able to do it because everybody was just so enamored and so infatuated with the fact that, no offense, but this is Lil' Kim 2.0. This is the modern day Kim in a way. She's rapping, she's writing her rap, she's doing her shit all on her own. This is phenomenal. She had a hold on the youth and the hold on the children, and it was kind of safe, but it still teetered that line. But you can do what you want to when you're the only one out. Again, comfort breeds complacency. You're just you chilling. You don't have no competition. So you can drop an album every couple of years. You can use your features to keep you afloat and drop an album every now and then, 2 or 3 albums or whatever. You're going to have that cult base because, again, you came from the street. You came from the soil. You came from having to walk the beat and come up the real way. But naturally, people do not understand this, but what goes up must come down. Not in a bad way, in just a way that you have impacted, as being Nicki Minaj, you've impacted and influenced so many people. Naturally, you're going to have one of her famous lines is, all these bitches is my sons. Naturally, you're going to have sons. Naturally, you're going to have children. Naturally, you're going to have offspring. Just like a lot of the shit that's going on, people are offsprings of Lil Wayne. Most everybody is offsprings of Wayne and offsprings of Gucci and offsprings of Gotti and offsprings of these alpha archetypes. You're going to have offspring too. The thing is, you got so complacent that you didn't realize that they're going to want to be like you. They're going to want to do what you do. What I think she should have done, because we're about to talk about Atlantic and the record labels, what I think she should have done was embrace the people who was coming and became a godmother figure instead of fighting against these people. But the reason that she could not do this is because The nature of the music business is snakes. The nature of the music business is lies. The nature of the music business is people trying to come in and sabotage instead of working with you, instead of doing these other things. I want to throw this in there. Young MA was never no threat. Nobody's accepting. Nobody was. People liked it because the music was good, but people wasn't interested in all of that. But we'll talk about that going down the line with these other female rappers that they tried to pop up. So 10 years later, naturally, Nicki Minaj has children all over the place. Everybody had a pink wig. Everybody wanted to be like her. Everybody wanted to be extra sexy, extra feminine, extra all these things, right? These other labels want to profit too. They want their shot at $1 billion, multiple billions off of one artist. This is a multi-billion-dollar artist. You think other labels besides Cash Money and Universal, because Cash Money owner, so, and Cash Money's under Universal, and Universal's not getting as much as they could, but they're making more than everyone else. So it's okay. Because hey, we're the only ones eating. So as long as we eating and ain't nobody else eating, it's good. That's how these people think. And you gotta think the worst when you thinking about a record label. So Universal's the only people eating off of the biggest female artist and really one of the biggest artists in the world at the time. Still one of the biggest artists, can go anywhere, up there in the category of people who can go anywhere and get paid. So everybody else is looking like, bro, y'all have had the fucking plate for 10 years. Let's have some. So they start trying to introduce other people in the lexicon. And really, I just want to deal with people who are big enough that we know. So for this example, I just want to use Iggy Azalea and Cardi. They try to bring in Iggy Azalea. Again, I have a whole video talking about, because we're not going to go into detail about that. They have Iggy Azalea. They can't sell that because we don't want to hear a white woman do her best cosplay of a black woman. We just don't want to hear it. It's not something that was going to stick. It's going to stick with other groups of people, but the group of people with the influence to say what's hot and what's not, you can lie, and they say numbers don't lie, but they lie all the fucking time. Like, we was never going to accept that. It didn't stick. And T.I. going to pay for his crime. So they weren't able to use that because the whole goal was to, because Nicki Minaj has been around so long, we need somebody to overthrow her. They didn't say we need to get somebody in here to make our indent and imprint on the industry and everybody live in harmony. It's never been about harmony. It's always been about money. This is why the Nicki Minaj being the godmother thing wasn't going to ever be a thing that happened, because they didn't come to her like, can you help us? Let's do a partnership. Because whether y'all know this or not, you probably don't, but you might know something about it. Just because you're signed to one label, that doesn't mean you can't go sign other deals with other situations. An example would be MMG is signed under, it was Def Jam at the time for one period of time, but his artist under, Meek Mill was under Atlantic, and Wale was under Warner, and all these other things. I mean, all these people pyramid up to the same place. But just because you're signed under one label don't mean you can't go do business with another label. So they didn't come to Nicki Minaj in the sense of, we want to do business with you because we know that you're a female rapper. You're the best to ever do it as far as the business side of female rapping. You can debate, we can debate whatever. We talking business today. I don't give a fuck about the personal shit right now. They didn't come to her asking to help, let's do a partnership. They came and tried to backdoor her and use people to knock her off. The thing is that they don't know anything about the music business on the side of being a consumer. So they thought Iggy Azalea was going to come knock her off because people, we didn't know what she looked like at first. And then we seen this was a hoe from Australia, and it's just like, whew, hell the fuck no. But then something else crazy happened after Iggy Azalea got knocked the fuck off her thing. So now Nicki Minaj is starting to look like a villain in music. Not because she's a villain. Because we can argue that, and I would say she probably is now, but like, she wasn't like this in the beginning. She didn't make herself this way in the beginning. This was people trying to backdoor her and dethrone her instead of giving her some money and saying, help me. Reality TV and all these other entities and social media and shit gets introduced into music. So now it's not about music. Now it's not about sales. Now it's not about who does the best business. It's about who has a personality that I like, who can do funny antics, who is funny, who can tell jokes, who looks the best. It's about everything except music. All of that gets introduced, and we're skipping around because there's a lot of people that could fit in there and we can throw in there. The next big thing that comes out is Cardi B. Cardi B, no, she cannot rap. Yes, she has writers. Yes, this is the total opposite of everything from analog, but remember, Cardi is coming up in the digital era. Yes, Cardi B can't rap, don't dance, she don't do nothing spectacular. She's not nothing to shake no stick at in a spectacular way, but she has a personality. People like her as a person. People see her life, and people can see exactly what it is. And she talk, and she talks to people, and she's a social butterfly in a sense. Nicki Minaj was not no social butterfly. Her whole stick was, I'm the kept bitch, put up bitch that you can't fuck, but you want me so bad, you don't even care, you're gonna try your best. Cardi B was not like that. And then on top of that, coming from the ignorant era of reality TV and Mona Scott and all that stuff, more people are being exposed to you, and you would think that, oh, that makes it so more people, like her and all this. That's not true. That's just more people are exposed, but they're exposed to seeing something that, oh, I like her because she kept it real. It's escapism in a way. They took her and plucked her because she had the most power and the most influence to be able to be molded into an entertainer. It's not about coming up and being something and being talented already. Remember, Nicki Minaj went to school for arts and all type of shit. It's not about that in the digital space. It's who are people willing to look at the most, who are people willing to listen to, who are people willing to be on the side on. So they pluck her and they turn her into a superstar. Flat out. She don't have to do nothing but show up and mimic what we say. And just be yourself, mimic what we say. We'll take care of everything. Don't worry about the rest. Cardi B shoots into being a fucking star. She had like Gangsta Bitch Music 1 and 2, but she shoots into being a star, and this time is different because it's sticking. Now, because it's sticking, people feel like it's safe to now come out the woodworks and attack Nicki Minaj. And it might not have been an attack that any of us saw, but it's attack like the Breakfast Club being on the payroll, your favorite blogs being on the payroll. Now bloggers have jobs and all these things. All of these people being on the payroll of the record label because, again, instead of just coming to Nicki like, hey, help, she already knew from behind the scenes, because when you are operating, even though you're operating under a corporation and you're so big that you're a corporation yourself, you know what people are doing. You hear what people are saying. You know what's whatever. And this is where, when you coming up, you got to be careful on who's told you stepping on and all this shit. And people are, oh, you can't do what you want to. But it's just like, you got to really be careful about the bridges you burn. Because nobody was on Nicki's side. Obviously, they weren't on her side because they wouldn't have never allowed this kind of shit to go on. But nobody was on her side because she act like she didn't have to show up on time. She act like she didn't have to do any of this stuff. It wasn't no respect because I'm the only one out here. I can do what I want to. I can live free and die young and all this other shit and all that shit, right? When Cardi is starting to stick, this is when everybody is comfortable coming out. That's basically what I'm saying. So now it's okay to speak against Nicki Minaj on the radio. Now it's okay to not play her record. Now it's okay to push Cardi B and give her an artificial boost, just an artificial stimulus package all together, and make it seem like, oh, this is the person that is going to dethrone. Naturally, that made Nicki Minaj infuriated on the inside. Keep in mind, nobody wanted to ally with her because they got tired of her because she was around too long. When you're winning for too long and you didn't grab and pull nobody in to help them win with you, because we never seen that. We've seen her always ally with a pop star. We've always seen her ally with some singer. We've never seen her pull no female rappers that fucking mattered, and or pluck the bitch from obscurity and pull them up. We've never seen it. So she didn't have nobody on her side, and then these labels is paying. Everybody wanted one. Remember, it ain't about Atlantic per se. They're just the only people who got a chance to make the shit stick. So Atlantic is winning. They got one. And now naturally, because Nicki Minaj is who she is and she's solidified, now it's okay for me to come out here and expose. And they know that you're gonna look crazy because nobody's gonna believe you. You're just the old bitch who fell off. That's how society is gonna perceive you coming out, you Nicki Minaj. They perceived you coming out saying, speaking the truth, but nobody gave a fuck about the truth because you've been winning so long they got tired of you. It's like, damn, can we get something else? It's like if you got to eat chicken every day. Like, you don't want to eat chicken every day. You might love chicken, but you don't want to eat it every day. So and then Cardi comes out and she's going back and just like, I'm a real person, ain't no robot. And then she's speaking the truth and she's speaking the young bitch language and she's not out of touch. They made it seem like, oh, she won over you. She beat you. We finally beat her. The thing is, this is why Nicki Minaj ends up lashing out, because she's been right and nobody's believed her that the whole play was to knock her out the music industry. They didn't want her to live side by side, because if we're being serious, before all this husband shit and all this linking up with these weirdos, it would have not been no question who would have won, because y'all are coming in where the rules are different, the game is different, the situation is different, it's a whole different sport. It's like we go to the ice cream shop and them motherfuckers is handing out pine cones. Like, this is not it. They was never going to be able to defeat her in that kind of way. So they ganged up and clicked up. They just wanted to see who would be able to make something stick. There's been plenty of motherfuckers that come out. Motherfucker, oh, I want this kind of rap. There's plenty of people who can rap that is not at that level. We know them. We fuck with them, but they're not superstar level. Not like them. Because being a superstar, people think that it's just about music. It's about the way you look. It's about the way you act. It's about how people feel about you. It's about how people react to you. It's a whole laundry list of requirements to being a superstar other than just rapping good and shit. It's a new game. It's a new day. So that's what happened with the record labels. She's fighting conglomerates because they want her fucking gone completely. I'm going to just leave that there because I want to get into Jay-Z. And this all ties into together. People do not understand that Jay-Z is like a god in New York. Nicki Minaj is from Queens. Fuck all that Trinidad shit she just started pushing. Nicki Minaj is from Queens. Them people up there in New York, no matter what borough you from, no matter what you got going on, no matter how far you might be out there in Buffalo with Griselda and them people in that tri-state New York area look at Jay-Z as a god. This is why it was so fucking devastating when Joe Budden got clipped by Jay-Z. Because Jay-Z, everybody knows, oh, he signs his competition and shelf him. This is why it was so devastating, because Joe Budden actually believed that Jay-Z was going to push him and boost him and make him a superstar, when the whole thing was, nah, you rap too good. Let me go ahead and throw you the fuck on overboard. This is another reason why Joe Budden is going to take Nicki Minaj's side, because Nicki, Azalea Banks spoke on this, but this is true. The fact that Jay-Z is a god to those people in that area, Nicki Minaj always wanted the blessing of Jay-Z. She always wanted the blessing of Jay-Z. And when I was mentioning Deb Auntie in the beginning, she felt like Jay-Z should have took her and made her something, or took her under her wing, instead of Deb having to come down south and give her to Gucci, and then Gucci and them eventually taking her to Cash Money. She never wanted to do that. That was never what was supposed to fucking happen. They was supposed to, bro, we got the best female rapper in the world, but can we say that she would be who she is if she would have stayed with Jay-Z? No. And the fact that Jay-Z has not only did not take her under the wing, that created this sourness and this bitterness inside of her that will not go away, and it's not going to go away. It's always been the fact that the God of New York, he is the God of where they are from. I'm not exaggerating. This motherfucker is the end all be all of where they're from. The biggest in the game, the biggest in the city, because really they're the only people who really care about that. Who's the king and who's the queen and who's this and who's that. They give a fuck about what we don't care down here in Virginia and fucking Texas and North Carolina and Baltimore and Maryland, Baltimore and shit like that. We don't give a fuck about what Jay-Z fucking says. Who gives a fuck about what Jay-Z says? Them people look at him like God Almighty. Hove. That is Hova. Jehovah. That is who he is to them. So when the person you idolize rips your heart out, and they don't rip your heart out by saying, oh, fuck you. They rip your heart out by ignoring you and putting everything above you and everything against you when you are literally the queen of what you do. You're the best to do what you have done in every aspect. You checked off every fucking box. It crushed her spirit. It broke her spirit. It hurt that she is hurt. So naturally, you're hurt. You can't really do nothing. So I'm gonna fight you and fight you back. And this is how this proxy shit comes in, because of anything that Jay-Z touched, she's having a problem with. Jay-Z with just something simple as like Taylor Swift going over there being with the title. All of a sudden, she got a problem with Taylor Swift. Jay-Z and Rihanna, all of a sudden, that's another thing. You going and plucking bitches from obscurity. And this is how the Meg shit come in. Bro, she don't give a fuck about Meg the Stallion. It's not about Meg the Stallion. This is about Jay-Z. The fact that you got the fucking nerve, because it's one thing to get you an R&B singer. All right, get you an R&B singer. But you got the fucking nerve to go get another fucking rapper from another fucking place and place them up and back them. And you didn't want to back me, and we from the same place. Her spirit is broken in that sense because her idol let her down. This is why we don't do the idol worship over here. Don't worship me. Don't idolize me. I'm here to help. I'm not here to be worshipped. Don't idolize nobody, because you end up just like Nicki Minaj with Jay-Z. She really want to say Beyonce and want to say something about Beyonce, but she ain't crazy, because that's a clash that you will not win. You can't beat Jay-Z and his conglomerate, because whether you want to accept it or not, you're exactly who you married. Beyonce is the exact same as fucking Jay-Z. So you're going against them, and it's really on some personal type of time. You're hurt about it. Everybody that Jay-Z touched, she's going to have some type of issue with, whether it be directly or some type of offshoot shit. The shit with Kanye. Anybody that get a Jay-Z cosign, anybody that get Jay-Z's fucking attention, she has a fucking problem with them. Because, and I want to bring this up too, why the Meg Thee Stallion thing, nobody said this. Nobody has said this. Let's just go on the record, because I see a lot of y'all motherfuckers out there, y'all be stealing from my folks. You know better than to play with me. The reason why she has to go so hard at Meg, one, Meg is connected to Jay-Z. Obviously, she signed with Roc Nation, a management deal. And that's another thing. Let me just interject this here before I forget. You can be signed to a company you don't have to be signed to a company under a label to manage you. You can be managed by anyone. Azalea Banks made mention that she wanted to be managed by Jay-Z. She wants to be a Roc Nation girl. I ain't gonna get into that. I mean, obviously she does. She wants to be with Jay. She don't want to sign with Jay, but she want to be with Jay. Meg is connected to Jay-Z. But remember this. Meg has prior connections, because this was going on for years. Meg just won her lawsuit against 1501, where she can be gone and let free and do whatever the fuck she wants to, and she can still retain the 50% of her catalog. So she's not gonna ever be broke. Meg sells records. I had to look it up. Meg sells records, so she's fine. Meg is connected to 1501, which is connected to Jay Prince, which is connected to Baby. So when they was going through all of that shit with the lawsuit and all of this shit, because remember, Jay-Z snaked his way into Meg's life, because Beyonce is the same thing to young women in Texas as Jay-Z is to motherfuckers in New York. Meg is from Houston. Beyonce is from Houston. So naturally, Beyonce come up to Meg on some fucking proxy shit for Jay-Z, because Jay-Z wanted to get in there because they know the potential that Meg has. Especially the way that Meg looks. She's pushing that, because, people like Meg don't need to be selling McDonald's. The sponsorship that she has now, these are all responsibilities of the manager. The sponsorship she has now with the Planet Fitness and the Nike and shit, that's where Meg need to be. Meg can sell that. And that will influence a whole generation of young bitches to come up and look up to Meg and really get on a positive note. But I don't want to get too deep into that. So Jay-Z, Meg, Beyonce, Jay-Z sent Beyonce to get Meg to come over there to Rock Nation while she was in her deal. The problem was Carl didn't know that you don't have to be managed by your label, because Carl was new to music. He came from baseball. So he automatically assumed, and this is when the attack started, he automatically assumed that Jay-Z was stealing his artists, not knowing that they're just managing. They're just taking 20% of everything she brings, everything they bring for her to get. They're not trying to run her record career. She can put out whatever the fuck she wants to, but they're going to advise her and manage her, which management deals are not the same as record deals. So Carl gets mad at Jay-Z. Carl is clicked in with Jay Prince. That's how he was learning his shit, because he was coming in. Jay Prince and Baby damn near, in a web. Baby, Nicki Minaj. So they probably was sending her out there like, bro, you need to fucking say something and shoot at her and handle this. Because they was getting along at first. Shoot at her, handle this. All this other shit comes out. All this other bullshit comes out up on the table. And then they might not have. I'm just, speculating to how it can go. But I know that Jay-Z sent Beyonce to get Meg to come up there so they can get paid off her. I know that for a fact. I know that. Because Meg would not have gone if it was just Jay-Z. You had to have Beyonce to come in there and get her. So this is how all of this shit is in a web with each other. 1501 mad. They were on track to have the next Nicki. And not Nicki as in her, but just the next biggest female rapper in general. They're upset because Jay-Z came down to Texas and stepped on their toes and is, hey, let's get an audit on your contract, because Jay-Z's been around for a long time. This is the job of the management company. That's why I think he's better at managing than he is running the label. Because, hey, let's get into these audits. Let's see what's going on with your contract. Oh, and then you read your contract, you did all this. But, hey, listen, that's the job of when you hire your team. People supposed to be able to pick up on shit that's not right. So she gets management, Rock Nation, the management conglomerate that it is, that's going to take care of everything you need. They might as well be a label. But we're going to look into all of this, and we're going to find all the snake shit for you. We're just going to take 20% of your earnings. So you get 80%, we get 20%. Whatever you need, come out your 80%. We taking ours off top. This is how this shit goes when you go over to them folks. They're mad that this motherfucker came from New York and stepped on their toes and busted their little ring and shit up. Because none of the shit with Tory, none of this shit, any of this shit would be going on if Meg had stayed cool with Carl and Jay Prince. Because naturally, if you cool with Carl, you're going to be cool with Jay Prince. And if you cool with Jay Prince, you're going to be cool with Cash Money. They talk about it all the time. And if you cool with Cash Money, Nicki Minaj would have been, because remember, they were friends in the beginning. It was cool until Rock Nation decided they wanted to come in and start stepping on toes and busting up paperwork and going into the files and looking at all this stuff. It was all good until that shit happened. And when that shit happened, remember Hot Girl Summer was a whole thing, and she had Ty Dolla $ign and all this shit. She didn't know what she was doing until she got good management, because she was being managed by a label, had the lawyers of the label, just all the goofy introductory level shit that comes with being an artist. So that relationship was going to fall, and naturally, again, all of a sudden, Jay-Z seems to be the common denominator in all of these fucking things. It could have been anybody. Just because it's Jay-Z is why this shit is as heated and as crazy as it is now, and motherfuckers trying to, like, they dox the grave and all of that shit, and people just hive-minded about all of this. Jay-Z is the reason for this shit, because her heart is broken behind the fact that, how come this nigga keep coming up every time I do something? How come this motherfucker keep coming up every time something go wrong? How come this motherfucker is trying his damnedest? Because they're never going to come out and talk. They're never going to address it. They're never going to say anything. That's really the best way to handle these situations. I got a video where I talked about how Meg can defeat her, and it's just by ignoring her, this bitch, and keep working. You don't get involved in that. And now it's done turned into this dumpster fire of situations where now Nicki looks crazy from the shit she say. And it's some truth into a lot of the shit she says. There's some bullshit there too, because I just don't want to get into the personal stuff. We already talked about that. That don't help either. The personal shit, you let your personal feelings get in the way because you idol worship Jay-Z, and then all the personal shit that you put on top of the shit you was going through on your own. And this is how we got here with everything that's going on today with Nicki Minaj and this proxy war with Jay-Z and the record labels. These people are not gonna stop. And now they feel like they have this edge because of all the shit. Because Nicki's like, oh, she looking for a Rihanna moment, all this shit, bro. You just saying anything now because you finally just, the shit has eaten away at you to the point where you just can't fucking take this shit no more. This shit has devoured you and rotted your mind to the point where you just can't take it. You don't have nothing to lose no more. You feel like, bro, I got my back against the rope, my back on the wall. I gotta swing my way out this bitch. And it's all because this snake ass industry decided that they were done with her. This is why, no, I'm not a proponent for being fake, but you need to know what allies you should collect, and you should not be worshiping anyone. This is paranormal pentivity. This is what we do over here. We're going to make it make sense for you. We could have talked about anything, but that is what happened. This is the situation we in. We don't know how it's going to end, but if I had to predict how it was going to end, Nicki Minaj is going to be fine. Like, let's just be for real, bro. 2 different eras, 2 different people, 2 different things, but her real problem, it could have been any female rapper that was put there. It was going to always be against any type of label that was coming at her and anybody that is connected to Jay-Z. Paranormal Pentivity.
Did you see that?